everyone. Welcome to this episode of Context is King. I'm Rebecca Brayton, and with me as always is WatchMojo founder and CEO Ashkan Karpus-Rushan to discuss the following tweet. That is your tweet. I'm going to quote you. So the 78-year-old Barry Diller said he recently heard that for employees at Amazon in Seattle, the work-life balance mantra was all work and no life, whereas at Expedia, it was all life and no work. Ugh. So should he have said that? Could he have said anything to that end that would have been acceptable? Like, what does he even mean?
Look, obviously it's not the right thing to say. This is a billionaire chairman of Interactive Corp who last year decided that he and the CEO of Expedia, fully owned subsidiary of Interactive Corp, don't see eye to eye in terms of the future. He parachutes himself the way a GM comes behind the bench to get an assessment of who's doing what. And what he realized apparently was like he had too many consultants, too many people that were not necessarily focused on the bottom line. So to be fair, he created, I'm assuming, this problem. Like he created this monster where, again, more drinks, another entree, all good, and then the bill comes, he's like, yikes. And so travel and Expedia is, no pun intended, like a cruise control when you don't have the coronavirus in the background. It generates money, you know, it's going in the right direction. They're not like a travel agency, so to speak, where it's like, we're not going to be in existence. People plan their trips online, right? And they benefit more than practically anybody else. But now that he's parachuted himself, he realizes that, hey, at Amazon, they're literally dying, you know, working themselves, which is not healthy. Whereas here, all life and no work, end quote. So that clearly isn't appropriate. Now, again, on the show, we don't tell you like the cliche bullshit. I'll tell you honestly, a lot of organization heads, myself included, there are moments when we are, yes, frustrated with the work ethic, the hustle, the dedication, the lack of gratitude of your team. We are human. But the same way that like when you do something for people, you actually shouldn't expect like a thank you. You should just do it for whatever reason. I kind of feel like the point he wanted to make could have been said more eloquently by simply saying, look guys, we don't want to become Amazon where it's all work and no life. But we also don't want to become a place where it's all life and no work. Now, that's passive aggressive. People, including the YouTube community ages ago, when I would be Mr. X on the comments, were like, wow, so passive aggressive. And I was like, I'm not. But if enough people tell you're passive aggressive, you know what people like even less than being passive aggressive? When you're direct in their face telling them that. So I feel if you would have been actually a bit passive aggressive to kind of basically say that, but without actually saying that you Expedia employees are a bunch of lards, you know, but if he would have just basically said we don't want to become this, I feel like he would have gotten the same point, but not necessarily lost a little bit of goodwill with his employees, who at the end, your employees do work hard for you.
Yeah, but are they going to work hard for you if you piss them off like
But
this?
that's my point.
Yeah.
I think what this does is it just further shows a lack of awareness. You know, at the end of the day, Barry Diller, legend, started off with the William Morris mailroom, which is an important job in
he's a mailroom.
But no, I mean, you can't. What does that mean?
No,
Yeah.
it means you can't do that anymore. You know what I mean? Like his story is not replicable.
And there's like a handful of people like him. He grew, you know, he built up his career many times.
But he's also
reinvented.
a dinosaur. Sorry.
Sure, but he's, you know what? But he's one of the smartest guys out there. Agree or disagree? But the problem is not ageism. But at 78, more that you're 78, you were chairman. You come back. You're a billionaire. Your employees, at the end of the day, many of whom are still, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, or even if they're living really, really well, they don't have the same, you know, comfort that you have. That you don't have the safety nets. And when they hear you say that, it doesn't actually endear you to them. It just makes you seem out of touch. And I really think, as much as people are like, oh, that's passive aggressive, yeah, that's like a tool in your arsenal. There's a way to convey that. So I get the point he's making, and I totally know what he's referencing, because Expedia is not an Amazon, like, you know, they don't have the same culture and they're very much on autopilot. But I do think it's ultimately a problem he created by having too many consultants, by having too many people and just coasting. But then when the bill comes at the end of the day, it's up to you to pay for it. So
but it's like apples and oranges, though, in terms of what type of company they are.
Absolutely, which just further adds to like the what the F he was thinking. But look, I mean, here's the thing. I think Donald Trump and many others have proven that like maybe you should have an age limit for being head of state. You know, if we're going to cap CEOs at 65, generally the board, in this case, he is the board. I don't necessarily think a 78-year-old should be the CEO of a company.
Hey, I wasn't being ageist. I just want to throw that out there. I just meant that someone who rose through the ranks from the mailroom, like I said, you can't do that anymore. will not be the most in-touch person.
What do you mean by you can't do that anymore? What is
I
that?
don't think that it's not a thing. Like,
No, but
it'll never happen.
Why?
I don't know. They look for too much education. Like,
But okay, to clarify, okay, that's a fair point. That's an excellent point. Then what you should do is you should read Powerhouse on CAA, which is one of the other, it's the biggest talent. You got CAA and William Morris now, and then you got UTA and ICM, and we're represented by ICM, FYI. And then, so basically, the mailroom back in the day was, sure, you could call it in a way, I mean, grunt, but it wasn't. It was
No,
actually,
it's
you were the
networking.
artery, because you were the artery of like getting the script, you know, and then from a writer, and then going giving it to Marilyn Monroe, and you know, so it was actually like a critical role that you kind of were the.
no,
you know,
for sure.
yeah.
I'm not discounting it at all. I just don't think that you have that same kind of access.
Fair enough. Yeah, in that sense, times have changed, but it was a very typical way of people to grow in an agency because it was actually a critical artery. In any case, I think though that increasingly, and it does take a little bit of discipline. Every day, every email, I hold back sometimes saying what's on my mind, as much as I like to be transparent and explain it, because I am like, you are working with a very young, idealistic, and not just at WatchMojo, at any company. I feel like the dynamics of employer-employee are so fluid and they're changing that if you are not able to hold yourself back, and I joke about this. I say there's like the original crew you included that I could joke about and say certain things, and there's a very clear line in the sand of like the employee after which I just can't say the same jokes. But it's also like tough love. Like I could say things to you guys a bit more, look, just direct because I want you guys to succeed and not repeat, even if they're not actual mistakes, things that expose you to not excel, that just, I realize with others you can't do the same thing. So here, I just feel like Barry Diller probably inserted foot in his mouth, and I'm hoping that he has people around him who are candid. But one of the things in the Michael Bloomberg debate fiasco, that was, why are you laughing? Is that a punchline now, or is that I'm jumping around?
No, the Bloomberg thing was a debacle.
But the Bloomberg thing, what to me the takeaway was, is I go, again, I'm not Michael Bloomberg, but I go, you know what, I always talk about the fact that I've not just hired, but the people who have excelled and I've kept around and like elevated very quickly are people that tell me things that I probably don't want to hear, but that I need to hear. I feel like Michael Bloomberg, what you really saw was a manifestation of the fact that he probably has surrounded himself
He hasn't debated in a while.
He hasn't debated in a while, but that means when he's in a room, it's kind of like we're going to do this because I said so. And so he doesn't get pushback. So when he's there, he kind of feels like the sense of like, look, he has 0 delegates and he thought that he should basically, everybody should bow out. So it just goes to show that the successful leaders of tomorrow are the people that don't have this lack of awareness, because I don't think anybody walked out of there saying, hey, I'm going to go and leave everything on the pitch for this guy. He really, you know, deserves my sweat, blood, and tears. So, but there was a smart way of getting the point across, which was basically, I hate to say it, being a bit more passive aggressive about it.
I'm not sure anybody wants to hear it, if I'm being honest with you. Actually, why don't you let us know what you think? Do you think there's any way he could have gotten his point across? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time.